Later this morning, the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform will hold a hearing on the merger between Bank of America and Merrill Lynch. The committee is investigating the role that federal officials played during that merger, particularly whether Bank of America was pressured into completing the deal. Joining us now to discuss the hearing is Bill Cohan, former investment banker, author of House of Cards, and a Bloomberg contributing editor. Bill, great to have you. This is just one of many hearings into the Bank of America Merrill Lynch merger. The reason it's so interesting to us is because Brian Moynihan, the former general counsel, current head of the commercial bank, is going to be testifying. What's the potential here? Is there any way that he can come out of this looking good? He's a candidate potentially to replace Ken Lewis as CEO.
Look, Erik, until he, testifies, until we see more of the documents, it's hard to know for sure. But I'm telling you, I wouldn't want to be an internal candidate for the CEO of Bank of America Merrill Lynch at this moment, having been through that whole merger process. Because I think the central question here, Erik, is why didn't these top executives disclose to shareholders before the shareholder vote on December 5th these growing losses at Merrill Lynch? That could be a securities law violation. And I don't think any board of directors in this country is going to appoint someone CEO who may have violated securities laws.
Do you think there's any potential fallout from Moynihan and the testimony from this fellow MAYOPOULOS, who said he was stunned at being fired as general counsel and subsequently succeeded by Brian Moynihan?
Well, again, that's sort of like, internal politics, which is always fun to follow. I think Brian Moynihan probably didn't have much to do with that. But more concerning, as I said before, is the failure of these guys to disclose the losses before the shareholder vote. They had a fiduciary obligation to disclose these losses, in my opinion. And my understanding is that there's documents that show that they knew the information that they were getting from Merrill Lynch was faulty and not reliable, and yet they acted as if it were and went ahead with it anyway and used that as a basis for deciding not to release the information about the losses to the shareholders.
So, Bill, I mean,
they had this obligation to do it, and they didn't do it.
So, Bill, I mean, is this the only choice here for Moynihan is sort of ignorance is bliss? In other words, I didn't know, or I knew and I didn't think it was harmful. That's not exactly going to be a great vote for leadership, to your point, either.
Look, I'm not privy to the deliberations of the board about the next CEO at this point, but I think that's why you've been getting leaks about them moving away from internal candidates. I don't think it can be good for either Greg Curl or Brian Moynihan at this point, and especially, Brian is young-ish, and they could use the fact that he maybe needs more seasoning before he gets this kind of a job. He's had a lot of different jobs there. I think that's why they're leaning towards a new outside person with new fresh blood who wasn't involved in any of this contentious decision making between first there's the decision to do the deal at $50 billion, $29 a share when Merrill was almost bankrupt. Then there's in the months subsequent to the announcement of the deal why they didn't disclose the losses and the business of the bonuses. It's not a pretty picture, and I think it's going to be tough for the board to pick any internal candidate, whether it's Brian or Greg Curl at this point.
So, Bill, what do you make of this suggestion by Mike Mayo of Callion CLSA that Ken Lewis stays in the job, that now isn't the right time to either go internal or external for all the reasons that we've seen play out in the press over the last few weeks?
No, I don't buy. I mean, look, again, I don't buy that either. I think Ken Lewis is the architect of this merger, was the CEO, the captain of the ship when they made all these decisions. That would be the worst decision of all. Incredibly, a year ago he was named, Banker of the Year by American Banker magazine. I think anything in the last year he's shown that he's not worthy of that title, and it's correct that he needs to go. This board, there are plenty of good candidates out there. This board can find one of those people and install them at the top of that firm. It's not that hard. They should do it and not talk. None of this talk about keeping Ken Lewis or these internal candidates. Time to move on, in my opinion.
Bill, thank you very much. That is Bill Cohan, Bloomberg contributing editor.